The first video emerged in a closed group of drivers on a Monday morning at around 7:30. The shaky footage, taken from inside a moving car, clearly showed old Highway 26 near the town of Eureka Springs in the southern U.S. state of Arkansas. The vehicle was moving slowly because of the thick fog, and the silence of the video was only broken by the muffled sound of the engine and the tense whisper of the woman recording, "Oh my God, look at that over there. Is that a deer?" What appeared right in front of the car, standing in the middle of the road, did indeed have the body of a deer. But what was strange was what was above it. Two heads. One of them, motionless, looked dead, the whites of its eyes turned away. The other, alive, stared straight at the person holding the cell phone, and when the car's high beam hit the animal, the living head turned towards the driver with almost human slowness. The woman choked on her own scream. The video shook and cut out. The post was up for only 35 minutes, then it was deleted. But the damage was done. 3 people had already downloaded the recording. One of the comments read, "This bug is not of this world," and it's still there. The following morning, 2 men died in a head-on crash on the exact same stretch of road where the video was recorded. And before we continue with this intriguing story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. This helps us bring you more content like this. Now, let's get back to the story. 34-year-old Trevor McAllister was a well-known and loved mechanic in Eureka Springs. He'd worked in his uncle's garage since he was a teenager, drove a '98 Toyota Tacoma, walked around with a faded cap on his head, and always put country music on loud while changing tires. He didn't believe a word of what was on the videos that the townspeople were commenting on. He laughed when he saw the printout of the creature with 2 heads in the workshop group. Montage, badly made montage, but he didn't comment. The town was small, everyone knew each other, and he didn't want to fight. But curiosity remained. On Wednesday night, after closing the workshop, Trevor took out his cell phone and a flashlight and got into his truck. He knew that road well. He had been there several times to take shortcuts to Huntsville, where his ex-girlfriend lived. And since there was no traffic at night, it was perfect for a quick, risk-free drive. Or so he thought. Trevor hit the road at around 22 o'clock. The sky was starless, and the moon was hidden by heavy clouds. The tall trees around the road formed dense shadows, and fog was beginning to form. As he drove slowly, his headlights cut through the vapor with difficulty. Even with the windows closed, he could feel the damp, chilly air outside. "Everything's normal, just bush and road," he muttered to himself with a debauched smile. He stopped the car and filmed a section. He went down with the flashlight. Total silence. No crickets, no wind, no sound coming from the forest. But something happened when he reached kilometer 14. The radio, which until then had been switched off, came on by itself and began to squawk. A dry, distorted sound came from the speakers. "You saw. You shouldn't have seen. You saw." Trevor turned off the radio. He stood still. Then, at the corner of the road between 2 thick pine trees, he saw something move. The flashlight picked up a leg, then a lean back, full of protruding bones, and then 2 heads raised on the same neck, one facing the forest, the other looking straight at him. The deer was there. Trevor took 2 steps back. The creature didn't move, but its eyes. The eyes of the second head were dull, and yet they seemed to see. The man ran back to his car, started the engine in a hurry and reversed. He didn't return to the main road. He took a dirt road that led to an abandoned gas station. It needed light, people, something. Only when he passed through the wooden gate of the post, he saw something impossible. The same deer, standing there next to the broken fuel pump, immobile, staring. He screamed. The next morning, Trevor showed up in town in a state of shock. Dirty, with a scratched face, his cap missing. He said he'd crashed his car and walked until he could get a signal and call for help. Nobody saw him coming. No camera at the gas station recorded his presence, but his phone was dead and his car was never found. 2 days later, other drivers reported seeing the creature, and more accidents began to happen. A truck driver, a couple of tourists, a state policeman, all on the same stretch of road. And the first video, circulated again, this time with something new. A human figure appears in the background, crouching next to the creature. The legend of the two-headed deer now had a real witness. And the questions began to arise. Who is the figure in the video? Where did the deer come from? Why does it only appear before accidents? And what happened to Trevor's car? 3 days after Trevor McAllister's car disappeared, the small town of Eureka Springs became the center of attention. Small YouTube channels specializing in mysteries started posting videos about the two-headed deer. Theories exploded in the comments: genetic mutation, demonic creature, collective delusion. One of the videos reached 100,000 views in less than 24 hours. The local sheriff, Jared Coleman, a skeptical and rigid man of 52, was forced to give an interview to the press. He said that the accidents were coincidence, that no creature had been officially registered, and that the only two-headed thing on that road is the ignorance of rumor mongers. But there was something even the sheriff couldn't ignore. State police emergency records showed an unusual increase in accidents on the stretch of Old Highway 26, exactly between kilometers 13 and 16. What's worse, the security cameras at the only 2 police stations in the area failed simultaneously in the early hours of the morning. They were short failures, between 2 and 4 minutes, but always at the same times that the records indicated that the victims had passed. Cassidy Lane, a 28-year-old freelance journalist specializing in local reporting, began investigating on her own. She was originally from Fayetteville and had come to Eureka Springs in search of human stories for the online newspaper of which she was a member. But this story was different. Cassidy got in touch with Sam Wheeler, the truck driver who survived a serious accident on the highway. He had broken 2 ribs, had minor trauma to his skull, but was lucid. She found him in the rural hospital in Berryville. I saw the bug. At first I thought it was a normal deer, but when I saw 2 heads, one of them was smiling, said Sam, trembling. I know it sounds crazy, girl, but I swear to God, when I tried to swerve, it was on both sides of the road at the same time, like there were 2 of them. Cassidy wrote it all down. He recorded it too. And when he got back to his car, he stopped to think. This was getting too big and dangerous, but she didn't stop. The journalist looked for the original video, the one that had been deleted. She discovered that one of the mechanics at the workshop where Trevor worked had saved a copy on his cell phone. His name was Ben Harper, 23 years old, quiet, son of the pastor of the local church. He showed the recording. Cassidy paused the video several times. He adjusted the contrast. He enlarged the image until he found the detail that no one had commented on. The figure crouching next to the deer wasn't there at the beginning of the video. It appeared suddenly, as if out of nowhere. And then, in the final second, the figure raises its face and looks at the camera. For less than a second, you can see its face, a pale man with completely black eyes, and on his mouth, a thin smile, as if it had been cut with a knife. That's a montage, isn't it? Ben asked nervously. Cassidy didn't answer. That night, she tried to send the files to the newsroom, but the Wi-Fi went down. So did her cell phone network. And while she was in the hotel, she began to hear something in the corridor. The sound of hooves, as if a heavy animal was walking on the wooden floor of the second floor. But her room was the only one occupied. She looked through the crack in the door. Nothing. When she went back inside, she found her laptop restarting itself. On the screen, in red letters, a sentence flashed for 2 seconds. You saw it too. Cassidy left the hotel in a hurry. She drove to the only place where she thought she might find an answer, the town's old library. A small, musty building home to the retired librarian Mildred Cooper, who was over 80 and known for her absurd memory. "A deer with two heads?" repeated the lady, frowning. "This has happened before." Cassidy stopped. "What do you mean?" "In 1973. There were 3 deaths on the road. 2 young men and a sheriff. They said their car exploded because of a leak. But I remember that days before, a hunter said he saw the demon with 2 faces in the forest. And why doesn't anyone know about it today? Because everything is gone. Files, photos, even that week's newspaper is gone. But I have a copy." Mildred went into a locked room. She came back with a newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Mystery in the Forest. Hunter swears he saw deformed creature before fatal explosion." The photo, in black and white, showed the same stretch of road. And behind the police tape, right in the corner of the picture, between the trees, the silhouette of something with 2 heads. Cassidy felt her blood run cold. She knew what she had to do: go back to kilometer 14. But not alone. She called Ben. She asked him to go with her. She also borrowed a thermal camera from a policeman friend. She planned to record everything, to prove that the creature was real. On Friday night, the 2 met at the entrance to the old road. And what they saw on the way was beyond their expectations. Signs on the asphalt, like hoof prints, but too deep for an ordinary deer. Broken branches forming symbols. And in the distance, eyes glowing in the dark. The car radio turned itself on. The thermal camera crashed. And a human scream echoed through the forest, coming from nowhere. They didn't know it, but someone, or something, had been following them all along. And it wasn't the deer. It was the crouching figure. It was around 23 o'clock when Cassidy and Ben arrived, at the exact point indicated in the previous recordings. The infamous kilometer 14 of Old Highway 26. Ben kept the car running, headlights high, while Cassidy positioned the thermal camera on the hood. The forest was filled with a dense darkness, and the sound of the crickets had disappeared, as if even the insects feared their presence there. "It's so quiet," muttered Ben. Cassidy stepped forward with the thermal camera in hand, scanning the vegetation. The screen flashed in shades of blue and purple. No heat source was apparent, but within seconds, something changed. An orange dot appeared on the left in the middle of the forest. Then a second dot, just above. "There's something there," said Cassidy, adjusting the focus. What appeared on the screen was impossible. 2 superimposed heat sources with the same body signature. A living creature with 2 thermal centers where there should only be 1. "That's him," she said. "The deer." But before they could get any closer, the camera switched itself off. The screen went out with a dry crack, and at the same time the car's headlights flickered on and off, plunging everything into complete darkness. The noise that followed was as if something very large was rushing towards them. Ben shouted, "Cassidy, get in the car!" But before she could move, the creature appeared in the middle of the road, less than 10 meters away. Its body was thin, too tall for an ordinary deer. Its fur looked wet, as if it had been covered in oil. The 2 heads moved independently, but there was something even more disturbing. The mouths were open and whispering. Cassidy froze. The heads were muttering disconnected phrases. Human voices, fragments of screams, cries, pleas for help. Ben got out of the car with a flashlight and pointed it straight at the deer, but in the beam of light, the creature's shape changed. It wasn't just a deer. It was as if a man had been fused to the animal's body. The face of the figure that appeared in the video, the crouching being, was now between their heads. It was smiling. Cassidy fell to her knees. Ben ran over to her, pulled her by the arms and threw her into the car. He turned on the key, tried to start it. Nothing. The battery was dead. The creature began to approach. With each step, the sound of hooves echoed like blows against dry bones. Then, something unexpected happened. A pickup truck appeared at the end of the road, its headlights blinding the creature for an instant. The horn sounded, and for a few seconds the deer retreated, disappearing back into the woods like smoke. The vehicle that saved them was an old blue Ford with rusty bodywork. At the wheel was a man, big beard, deep-set eyes, confused look. Cassidy ran out of the car. "Hey, did you see that? Who are you?" The man got out, slowly. He stared at her. Then he spoke. "My name is Trevor McAllister. I think I'm dead." Cassidy and Ben looked at each other, paralyzed. "That's not possible," said Ben, almost voiceless. "You've disappeared. Everyone thought you died that night." I thought so too," replied Trevor, looking lost. "But I'm stuck here. Every time I try to get out, I come back to the road as if it were a noose, as if that thing had marked me." Cassidy, trembling, asked, "What is that creature? What does it want?" Trevor looked at the bush and took a deep breath. "I saw what no one should have seen, and now it's using me. Every time someone tries to prove it's real, it shows itself, and she marks someone else." "Marks how?" Ben asked. Trevor opened his shirt. In the center of his chest, in living flesh, there was a burnt symbol, a circle with two overlapping eyes and a scratch in the middle. Cassidy recognized it immediately. It was the same symbol formed by the broken branches beside the road. "This is a warning," Trevor continued. "This thing doesn't want anyone to find out. It doesn't have to kill you. It erases you, little by little. Your mind, your presence, your past." Ben took a step back. "Is that a curse?" "It's more than that. It's a living trap, an entity that uses the road as bait. And now that you've seen it, you won't be able to leave." The sound of hooves returned, now coming from all sides. The surrounding forest began to move. Branches trembled, leaves flew. The earth vibrated as if something was approaching beneath it. Trevor looked at Cassidy and Ben with a look of urgency. "There's only one way out of here. You need to find the place where this thing was born, the knot. It's a buried, sealed place, but if you destroy it, maybe everything will end." Cassidy swallowed. "And where is that?" Trevor looked into the dark, his eyes filled with tears. "Under the road. In the basement of the abandoned gas station. That's where she first appeared, and that's where I died." Cassidy, Ben, and Trevor stood still for a few seconds, paralyzed by what they had just heard. The idea that the creature, or whatever it was, had been born under the old gas station gave the story a new, almost unbearable weight. Cassidy broke the silence. "The basement of the gas station has been closed for over 20 years. There's concrete on top. Nobody goes in there." Trevor nodded slowly. "That's exactly why. There was a fire there in 1999. They said it was accidental, but the ancients knew. They tried to seal it off." Ben was still breathing heavily. "So, that's the knot over there. A kind of origin for the creature? I don't know if it's her birthplace or her tomb, but what I do know is that as long as it exists, it will keep appearing, feeding, calling the curious, like you." Cassidy, even overwhelmed by fear, felt something inside her change, a kind of anger for the city, for the lives lost, at the way everything had been treated as legend or paranoia. Someone had to put an end to it, and if no one else would try, she would. She faced Ben. "We're going down to the basement. We'll open it." The next morning, the three of them met with Mildred Cooper, the librarian. They showed her the recording of the creature made the night before. She watched it with trembling hands, tears flowing even before the end of the video. This has happened before. A ritual, something done by outsiders. In 1948, they camped near the road. 3 disappeared, 2 were found dead, torn to pieces. After that, the road was closed for years. When it reopened, everything was silent, until the day Trevor saw it. She got up with difficulty and returned with an old map in her hands. A yellow drawing of the area before the post was built. "Here," she said, pointing to a dot crossed out in pen. "This is the oldest point on the indigenous trail in the region, a kind of spiritual crossroads. Ancient shamans avoided going through there. They said that the inverted guardian slept under that land." Cassidy took a deep breath. "The creature, is it this guardian?" "I don't know, but it's not just a monster. It's something that forms out of fear, guilt, with the presence of the dead. Maybe what you saw doesn't even have a fixed form. Maybe it's a reflection of something that shouldn't be awakened. Ben straightened his cap, trying to understand the gravity of the situation. "So what do we do?" Cassidy answered firmly. "We destroy the basement, the concrete, everything." A few hours later in the afternoon, the three of them went to the abandoned gas station. The place was surrounded by tall bushes, broken glass, graffiti, and a silence that was too heavy for a daytime environment. Trevor stopped the truck a few meters away. "Are you sure about this?" Cassidy nodded. Ben swallowed. They pulled into the gas station. The fuel pump was completely corroded. One of the toilets had collapsed. But what they were looking for was the iron door at the back, hidden behind an old freezer. With effort, they moved the piece, and there it was, a door locked with rusty chains. Cassidy used a portable saw and broke his way through. The air that came out was musty, hot, and smelled more than death. It was worse. It was the smell of something that shouldn't exist. Going down the steps, Ben's flashlight revealed a cramped basement. On the floor, old drawings, symbols burned into the concrete, exactly the same as the one Trevor carried on his chest. But there was something else. In the center of the basement there was a hole covered in metal plates, sealed with thick rivets. Cassidy approached. "Is that the knot?" Trevor stared, as if reliving a deep trauma. "That's where I first heard it. Voices, cries, a call that brought me down alone. After that, my memory fails me. I only remember the pain." Ben hesitantly began to remove the rivets with a sledgehammer. Each blow echoed like muffled thunder, and that's when the world began to shake. "Stop!" shouted Trevor. "She can feel it." Outside, the sky darkened in a second. Thick clouds covered the sun and the wind intensified. The structure of the post shook, but Cassidy didn't stop. With Trevor's help, they lifted the last plaque. What was underneath wasn't a hole. It was a mirror of black water, static, dense, as if it were made of oil. And in the reflection they saw the three heads. The creature had now evolved. 2 deer heads, a human one in the middle. And in the eyes of the human head, Cassidy's face reflected as if it had already been marked. Ben took 2 steps back. "You can't destroy this. It's a portal. It's not physical." Cassidy stood still. She felt her mind being invaded by images, burnt forests, blood, voices calling her name, children crying, herself, walking along the road as if she were someone else. Trevor then turned to her, his eyes watering. "There's only one way." "Which way?" "Someone has to come in." Cassidy was shocked. "What?" "When I was pulled in, part of me got stuck. I'm the link, but you brought me back. And if I come back, maybe I can close it from the inside." Ben shouted, "That's suicide." Trevor smiled sadly. "I've already died once." Without another word, Trevor ran and dived into the black mirror. The instant he touched the surface, the water boiled, spiraled upwards, and sucked everything in. The basement structure began to collapse. Cassidy and Ben ran up the stairs. As they left the post, it exploded with a force impossible for such an old building. The floor shook, the symbol on the floor cracked, and silence returned. Over the next few days, no accidents were recorded on Old Route 26. The videos stopped circulating. The deer was never seen again. But Cassidy's thermal camera, even turned off, continues to flash red every time she passes kilometer 14. 3 weeks after the gas station explosion, Cassidy thought the nightmare was finally over. The road was sealed off by the state government on the grounds of environmental recalibration. No journalist could get anywhere near the site. No more reports on accidents were released. Everything disappeared from the portals, as if someone behind it was erasing the traces of the creature and what it represented. Ben returned to Fayetteville. He was trying to get back to his routine. The workshop was moving again, and no one mentioned Trevor McAllister's name anymore. It was as if he had never existed. Cassidy, however, couldn't forget. She started having nightmares, nights when she woke up sweating, hearing the sound of hooves echoing in the room. At other times, she dreamt of the black mirror in the basement, still intact, calling her name. The thermal camera, even turned off, continued to pulse red whenever she approached the city. And now there was something new. The camera's reflection showed Trevor, sitting down, on his back, with his head down, as if he were waiting. She tried to film, but the videos always disappeared. One morning, Cassidy received an envelope with no sender. Inside was just a USB stick. The contents, a single video. She pressed play with trembling hands. The recording was of a black and white night, filmed from inside a car stopped on the side of old Route 26. First, silence. Then, figures crossing the road. The sound of hooves, a muffled murmur, and then the car shook. The creature appeared in front of the headlight, but now it had 4 heads, 2 deer, 1 human, and a new one, which Cassidy recognized on the spot. It was Ben's face. The camera turned quickly inside the car, and for a split second the screen froze over the passenger seat. Cassidy fell to her knees. The man holding the camera was her. Desperate, Cassidy ran to Ben's house. The truck was parked, but the front door was open. She went in without thinking. On the living room floor, she found a drawing burnt into the carpet, the symbol of the knot. In the bedroom, his cell phone lay on the floor, with the camera app open. In the last photo, the creature's face was reflected in the window. Cassidy picked up his cell phone and called the police station. Sheriff Coleman answered, but his voice was different, monotone. "Miss Lane, you need to stop this. There have been enough accidents." "Oh, Ben's gone. You need to see this. We're already taking care of it. Go home." She hung up immediately. That wasn't the sheriff, or if it was, he too had been touched by the creature. That night, Cassidy made her final decision to get back on the road, alone. It was just after midnight when she drove onto the old stretch of Route 26. Even with the no trespassing signs and caution tape, the radio began to squawk. She pressed the accelerator, ignoring the sweat dripping down her back. At kilometer 14, the car died. She climbed down, pulling out the thermal camera, which turned on by itself, even though it had no battery. The reflection on the screen showed the road, and behind it, an approaching shadow. Cassidy turned around. She saw nothing, but when she looked at the screen again, there was only a face. Her face, screaming. The image fell. The camera went out, and for a second, everything was silent. When she woke up, she was lying on the grass by the side of the road, without the car, without the camera, and no memory of the previous few minutes. She walked into town, disoriented. As she passed the window of the local diner, something stopped her. An old television set was showing a local news report. Eureka Springs Sheriff's Office mourns the loss of young Ben Harper, who has been missing for 5 days. Search teams have not yet found any clues. Family members ask for prayers. Cassidy rushed in. She asked for the day's paper, and what she read made her blood run cold. Date, November 3rd. She had left the road on October 24th. She had lost 10 days. In the days that followed, Cassidy tried to tell the story to independent channels, journalists, even the federal police. But no one listened. No one wanted to get involved, and the few who did listen mysteriously disappeared. Until one morning, a new video appeared on the internet, a night shot. The creature crossing the road with 4 heads, and in the video's caption, written shakily, "Now I see you." Cassidy recognized the voice narrating. It was her own. Cassidy Lane disappeared from the map 2 weeks after the video, with her voice was published online. Her apartment in Fayetteville was intact, with the lights on, her laptop on, and a cup of coffee still warm on the table. There was nothing to indicate escape, struggle, or suicide. Nothing. Except one last recording left in a hidden file on the computer's hard drive. It was a voice audio, just over 3 minutes long. Cassidy's voice was slower, lower. She sounded tired. "If anyone finds this, don't try to understand. Just leave. The road has life. It calls out. Every time someone looks, it pulls. The creature is only the beginning. There is something greater that feeds on the fear of those who believe in it. I've seen the other side, and now she's seen me too. After that, silence. The local police dismissed the case as a voluntary escape, but in the town, few believed it. Ben Harper was never found. No trace, no clue, just a trail of hoof prints leading down to the edge of the lake next to the road. And then, nothing. Sheriff Jared Coleman was admitted to a psychiatric hospital in Little Rock after being found naked, walking in circles in the middle of the forest, mumbling disconnected words. He said that the road was alive and that mouths were going to open again. Over the next few months, a new company appeared. A civil engineering firm with a generic name, Rathbone Holdings. They bought the entire road area and began the reconstruction. Yellow tape, machinery, new concrete, all very fast. Apparently, for the rest of the state, Old Highway 26 no longer existed. It was now State Highway 41, with dual carriageways, lighting, and intelligent signage. But one thing hasn't changed. The stretch between kilometers 13 and 16, even with the new asphalt, new bollards and new structure, accidents happened again. Small ones at first. A rollover, a sudden break. Then there were worse. Drivers reported inexplicable technical problems, and once again, the security cameras failed exactly at the time of the accidents. Some press outlets tried to investigate, but every time they got close, they received threatening emails, or worse, reporters simply disappeared, until a local YouTuber called Miles Holloway decided to film the road himself in a live stream. He was skeptical. He said it was all just cheap sensationalism. During the broadcast, he used a GoPro on the hood and a drone following from above. 43 minutes into the video, something disturbing happened. The image from the front camera froze, and in the still frame, everyone watching noticed there was a silhouette in the middle of the track. It wasn't a deer, it was a woman. Long hair, simple clothes, and on her back, a deep gash from which thin twigs emerged, as if the flesh was turning into wood. The transmission crashed seconds later. Miles never posted anything again. 3 days later, his channel was deactivated. Some old inhabitants began to report strange events. People seeing figures on the road, hearing screams coming from the bush, and the worst, testimonies of a creature with 5 heads, now visibly human. Trevor, Ben, Cassidy, and 2 other unidentified ones. A local priest tried to perform an exorcism on the spot in secret. He was found hanged with a power cable from the church itself. After that, the subject died. The road remained open, but no one who knew the story dared to pass that way at night, and those who didn't talk about what they saw. The case of Trevor McAllister, Ben Harper, and Cassidy Lane became one of hundreds of unexplained mysteries in the archives of the Arkansas State Police. But one detail went unnoticed by everyone, except an intern in the archives department. Cassidy never had a record in the state, no valid ID, no medical history, no birth certificate. It was as if she had never existed, except for the videos. The ones that still reappear from time to time on obscure forums with poor quality, a corrupted date, and a disturbing title. The Road That Sees You Before You See It. 5 years have passed since the events that have become known, among the few who dare to talk about it, as the case of Route 26. The new highway, duplicated and full of technology, continues to function normally during the day. But at night, drivers avoid it. Many opt for longer routes out of pure instinct. GPS apps often redirect for no reason to alternative routes when the destination passes through kilometers 13 to 16. There is no official warning, but everyone knows. Even among those who don't believe in ghost stories, legends, or curses, Route 26 has become synonymous with bad omens, a kind of collective secret that no one admits to, but everyone respects. What did you think of this outcome? Leave your opinion in the comments. We'd love to know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to support our work. See you in the next video.